Welcome everybody. You've gotten this far, you've downloaded your SVG file, and now you want to cut it. So to prepare for next week when we're going to be frosting that base of our royal icing transfer, we want to make sure that our stencils are cut and ready to go. With the Silhouette machine, you're going to be using Silhouette Studio program to be able to upload these SVG files. So if you're used to uploading SVG files, then you can skip this video tutorial because you probably already have the business edition and you've already been doing this for a while. For those of you that are new and need a step-by-step walkthrough, stay with me and I'll walk you through the whole process. Once you open up the Silhouette Studio program, you're going to see a screen like this. I have my page setup set to 12 by 12, and you'll find that in the top right corner if it doesn't automatically pop up. I do 12 by 12 because that is the size of plastic that I cut on. If you have a different size, there is a drop down here that you can pick letter size, that would be like your regular paper size, and multiple different options, or you can hand type where it has width and height. You can hand type the exact size of plastic, because sometimes I'll have like a scrap piece of plastic that I'm cutting on, so I can actually enter in those numbers and it will show me exactly where my plastic is. For now, I'm just going to do the 12 by 12 because that's what I'm using. Once you have your page set up the way that you want, you come up to the left corner where it says File. Once you click on that, you can come down to Merge, and this is where you're going to upload your design, and you'll probably find yours in your Downloads folder. I'm just going to upload that SVG file, and you see it's already ready to cut. A couple of things I like to do before I cut is I like to move these boxes away from each other, and these are just individual pieces, so I am able to shift all of them at the same time without worrying about things getting messed up as I'm moving things. I like to add a little bit of a gap. I use 6mm Mylar plastic when I create my stencils, and so I do double cut. So if I leave these touching, it's going to cut over this line here and this line here 4 different times. So I want to make sure I have a gap. And I'm just using my arrow keys on my keyboard. You can also drag these. But I just like to keep things kind of uniform, so I just use my arrow keys so things line up. The next thing you want to do is just make sure that you have this fairly centered in the page. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just kind of eyeball it, make sure that you have a nice gap all the way around your design, because you don't really want to be cutting right on the edge there. That's where your mat starts to become the least amount of sticky, and you can have a lot of issues with the blade getting caught up if you're right on the edge there. So just leave that little bit of a buffer. Now we have this how we want it. We're going to come to the right top corner and hit send. I like to adjust my settings under the line option up here. That way I can just double check and make sure I just have one line color, because sometimes if you have more than one color, these settings can get changed because we do have a cut and a sketch option. And there have been times in the past where I'll go to cut something and certain parts of it won't cut, and I'll realize that one of the colors was on the sketch somehow. So I just make sure it's all the same color now so I don't have to worry about that. Next thing you want to do is check your material. I just use the regular stencil material option, but you do have a ton of preset options in here. We're just going to stick with the stencil material though. The next thing I do is come down and check my cut settings. So my blade depth for my 6mm plastic, I find the best that works is doing 4 for blade depth. I bump my force down to 30, and then I double cut it. And I just keep my speed at 2. So this is going to make it so that you aren't abusing your blade as much because you've bumped down your force a little bit. It's not out as far, and you're double cutting that. So this will make it so you get it cut nice and perfect, and you don't have to worry about trying to cut through that really thick plastic in one go. If you do have a thinner plastic, you can experiment with these settings to see if there is a way that you can get it with just one pass. That is a possibility as well. So next thing you do is make sure that you have your mat ready to go. So all we're going to do is we're going to put this plastic on the mat. You're just going to line it up and smooth it out. Make sure that it's attached as good as you can by just rubbing your hands over it. And then once you have that plastic attached, you are going to stick it in and line it up with these little tiny triangles. You can see them here on your Silhouette machine. You want to make sure that the edges of your mat line up with those arrows. Once you get it there, just tuck it in there nice and tight and hold it up against that rail there, and then you're just going to hit the load button, and that's just going to pull your sheet in. Now that you have your mat loaded, you can come back to your screen and then make sure this will say ready right here, and it'll let you know that it's ready to cut. And then you can just click the send button and it will start cutting your design. And then once it cuts all the way out, we can click this unload button, and then we're going to just start peeling this plastic off of the sheet. And as long as your cut settings are correct, then this should almost pretty much weed out everything, especially with the newer mats. If your mat is a little bit older and it's not as sticky, you might find that some pieces don't weed out as easily. And then you'll just come in with your weeding tool and pop those out. But most of these should weed out all on their own. There you have it. There's your stencil set. Now you're ready for the next email that's going to be sent out. We're going to be sending out that email on the 12th, and that is where we're going to be frosting the base to our royal icing transfer. So now you're all ready to go.